Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity to provide an answer to the question that has been put in the House by the Honourable Vakalala. Before I answer that, Honourable Speaker, let me name the elephant in this chamber. The Mining Act that we are reviewing today is 1965, and I beg that we would just allow that number to land, because in 1965, Robert Menzies was the Australian Prime Minister, and the Beatles have just released their single called Ticket to Ride. And Fiji was still 5 years away from independence. Mr. Speaker, colonial law written when television was in black and white is now supposed to govern our critical minerals and the environmental rights of Itoke landowners in 2026. So yes, the review has begun, and I am proud to confirm that on the 9th of March of 2026, the review of the Mining Act 1965 and the Quarries Act of 1939 officially commenced, with the announcement by the Honourable Prime Minister launched this process on the 26th of February at the Natewa groundwater commissioning ceremony. Because I would suggest, Mr. Speaker, even water knows minerals cannot be left to outdated laws. I thank the acting attorney for endorsing the terms of reference, and I also thank a decision that was taken in 2020, which approved this review years ago. Let me be honest, Mr. Speaker, we should have done this sooner. Mr. Speaker, this is not a desk exercise. We're not polishing a colonial relic. We are conducting this review jointly with the Solicitor General's Office and the Fiji Law Reforms Commission. And I want to publicly acknowledge the Australian government through DFET and the Fiji Support Program for their generous assistance. They have provided a mining advisor for technical detail and advisory support, quality assurance, and to advise us on global best practices. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, they are taking our officials to see mining jurisdictions that work. I think sooner or later on in the month or in weeks to come, they will be visiting Australia, Papua New Guinea, and Solomon Islands. But I have not seen any invitation to any members of the House, so only for the commissioners and the officials. Why are we doing that, Mr. Speaker? Because we're not seeking to reinvent the wheels. What we're simply doing to take wills, the best wills that exist in those countries, and put them on a Fijian Excel. Mr. Speaker, sir, consultation, I would submit, is not a courtesy, but it is indeed a condition to legitimacy. To date, we have held 35 public consultations. Participation numbers 856. That number may not probably represent a large chunk of what we would expect, but I would suggest and submit to this House that 856 are those that actually present their views, and behind them would be those whose voices are recorded with the views that have been expressed. In the Central Division, 215 attended, the Western Division, just below 400, and in the Northern Division recently, again below 300. Mr. Speaker, I am particularly proud that while participation has been largely Itoke, and as expected, because of land identity, we've also had a very meaningful representation from industry stakeholders and the Indo-Fijian community. The Eastern Division consultation begins in 2 weeks, on the 11th of May, alongside targeted engagements with key stakeholders. Let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Effective consultation will not be a one-off event, and it's certainly not a quick checkbox. It is a long-term relationship that we want to form with all Fijians, and our ministry will not treat this as a tick-the-box exercise and then disappear into bureaucracy. That, Mr. Speaker, is the old Fiji. That, Mr. Speaker, Fiji of 1965. Mr. Speaker, the feedback has been very extensive, very insightful, and in places, Mr. Speaker, very uncomfortable. But it is good, because we believe that discomfort is where growth really happens. The single most prominent issue raised, as you would have witnessed reading through the media and watching the television, ownership of minerals. Let me read you, Mr. Speaker, the three proposals that have come out from the engagements done so far. Number one, suggestions of a full or shared landowner ownership of minerals. Number two, a custodial role for the state. And number three, a state administration with ownership vested in landowners. Mr. Speaker, this is not a technical debate. This is a constitutional conversation. Who owns what lies beneath? The 1965 Act assumes the Crown, now the state, owns all minerals. But the Vanua now is asking, is that still just today? So we have heard from this consultation, number one, explicit consent. Required before any exploration license is issued, and not just consultation as we presently have in the shape of the Mining Act. Not just consultation, but they also want to have, in addition to consultation, veto powers. Number two, equitable benefit sharing and increase in royalty rate. Three, a stronger environmental safeguard, because days of dig and dump should be declared over at the start of the new law. A review of discretionary powers held by authorities. Too much power in one chair is a lot of risk. And even a proposal for the state to directly invest in mining operations. Mr. Speaker, these are not radical suggestions. They are indeed reasonable, and they will be in the new bill. Let me give this Parliament a timeline that we can hold on to. Public consultation should be completed by middle of May. The Commissioner finalizes a comprehensive report, drafting instructions, and a revised legislative draft. Draft bill and cabinet paper to be submitted by or on the 31st of July 2026. And hopefully, God willing, introduced to Parliament by October of 2026. So we are hoping that we will maintain that promise. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, taught the world that markets needs moral and value needs values. Our Mining Act has neither. It is value blind and it is morality free. It treats minerals as a commodity to be extracted, not a heritage to be stewarded. The new Act will be built on three pillars. Number one, investor confidence. Clear rules, stable contracts, no midnight amendments. Number two, landowner benefits, royalties that reach the village, not vanish into administration. Number three, sustainable development. Environment as a balance sheet line, not an externality. Mr. Speaker, a great lesson from this review is that one size fits all cannot hold anymore. What works for a bauxite mine in Ronwalevu does not work for a quarry in which we live. Our new law will be differentiated, flexible, but fair. Mr. Speaker, sir, I say this with respect, but with fire. The Mining Act of 1965 must be put out of its misery. It has sat on our books, on our law books, like a sleeping giant. And while it sleeps, our environment pays the price, our landowners waited for benefits that never come, and our investors navigate a maze of colonial ambiguity. That ends when we introduce the new bill. With this review, we are not just amending a law, we are decolonizing our minerals wealth. We are telling the world Fiji is open for business, but on our terms, with our people at the table, and our environment non-negotiable. I thank the honourable member for the question. I thank the people of Fiji for their voices, and I look forward to bringing this bill to Parliament by October. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
I thank the Minister, the Honourable Vosarogo.